Welcome. This is Truth to Blueprint with Dawn Marie Sargent, and we're going to play Detroit tonight. It's Saturday afternoon, so this is probably a good time for me to talk about the personalities involved here, since so many of them went through Detroit and I actually live outside Detroit. But I did promise Jamie I would talk about goalie interference. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about today. My proposition is that the rectangle that used to exist be protected for the goalie. That you can follow the puck in there, but you cannot bring it in. You cannot sit your stick in there. You cannot have a skate in there when somebody scores. Those things are presumed to be automatically goalie interference. Then that little half circle at the top is sort of a neutral zone. That would reduce the amount of calls severely, okay? It would also give goalies very little room to make arguments, because this sort of thing is very easy to see on the tape. It's like the puck going over the goal line. It isn't really that tricky to call that let's say all of the time, and somebody will write about an exception, which is cool. Anything you want to tell me, really. And Jamie, it's so simple that they're never going to do it, because the NHL is a teenage girl. When I was a teenage girl, all the teenage girls I knew, and I suppose myself, and this is young teens, okay? This isn't, those grown-up spiffy teens, talk about that too. But this is when they're 13, and one day it's this group, and the next day it's that guy, and the next day they got to dress like this one, and the next day they got to have this. Every new shiny thing seems like the best to them. And the more complicated it becomes, which is just sort of a thing girls practice at that age, how convoluted their intent can be. And men do it too, but I'm just saying that it's something that girls play with, this idea of manipulation with each other. And that's really, how the NHL likes to pretend that it has some idea of what it wants to do, when really, just like a teenage girl, it's going to be something else tomorrow. I did hear Mark Bergevin say, we don't have a problem with goaltender interference, that we're not having a problem getting goals waved off or allowed. He is, of course, the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. So what does that tell you? If he doesn't know we're having problems with goaltender interference, I can't even begin to talk to him about the kind of team he has right now. All right. Now we're moving on to the fact that this is where I sit, in Keego Harbor, not terribly far from Detroit and surrounded by water. You need a ship to get here. Now, I live very close to where most of, the Red Wings and people like that hung out. I haven't lived here nonstop, but I have lived in this area for 50 years. My beginning with hockey is intimately tied to what some of you are learning about me. So I worked with the Junior Red Wings when they were still the major junior team, when Mark and Marty Howe played. This was in the very early 70s, and that's how I became acquainted with Gordie, and that, I had met him other times, but that's how I got to be able to sit next to him and have him explain things to me about hockey. I also worked at Mark and Marty's hockey school. Now, my other life as a person, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I hear too many of you talking about magic. Well, I know it doesn't seem like a practical person like me would possibly know a thing about magic, but did you date a sorcerer? No. Okay, I did. I was in the 70s, had the opportunity while I was working at Olympia Stadium for the Junior Red Wings to have a Mr. Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin take an interest in me. This interest went on, became a sort of a flaky Babylon prophecy, and I'm not going into the details of that. That's what really stoned, way too rich and bored people think about, okay? It isn't relevant. But the thing about magic is, the only thing about magic that's dangerous is people's belief that it can do things. That's where it derives all its power. It's not a mystery. Yeah, well, they say it's a mystery because if you knew, they wouldn't be able to do their magic tricks. But think of it this way. The first person who pointed out to another person their reflection in a puddle of water was a sorcerer. This idea that people could create things out of nothing. This is somehow the idea that people have, that it's a cult of Shanahantology and we're all just under the influence of the Shana plan. that really just runs right up against who Brendan Shanahan is. Now, I don't know these people. I've never met them, or if I've met them, shook their hand, whatever. A lot of times I don't remember. I've met a lot of hockey people. But the Brendan Shanahan, who went through his career and used to be sort of a, he knew he was smart, so he played it dumb. That is so excellent. I do it myself. But he became, later when he was on the Red Wings, he was known for kind of being a know-it-all. Okay, here's the thing with a know-it-all. I give credit to Sheldon Cooper of The Big Bang Theory for this statement. I'm not a know-it-all. I just know a lot of things and really like to tell people they're wrong, okay? Not a know-it-all. And I understand Channy. It's probably the reason that I don't think we get along very well. And I sort of resist the idea of how smart he thinks he is, but that's just what smart people do when they've got nothing to do. He was snubbed by the Hall of Fame the first time. Apparently his ability to control his life seems to piss people off. God, I know how that works. There's nothing like being in control to piss people off. But he is indeed the fearless leader of this. He doesn't make things about himself. He makes himself about things. That's a big difference. And again, I understand what all these cults of personality, the symbols, the logos, the mottos, the statements, all of it is playing into your sense of mythology. Mythology is not magic. These things don't have power unless you give it to them. Okay, you want to give a pump-up song power? Awesome! I got one too. I was just listening to the Stones. Excellent. And that's the kind of music that gets me ready to do this. So you can play around with the idea of mythology, but don't play around with the idea of magic. There's no curses. Sophomore slump, are you kidding me? That's a joke. You have to be joking me. And all of these other things like the hockey gods or the puck comes right to him. Now, you really don't like hockey players if you say the puck comes right to him. He's the one who knows where to be. Like Mitch. Mitch is so fantastic at knowing where the puck's going to be. Austin Matthews. That's a whole video. We'll talk about Austin because he makes my imagination fly. I haven't met anyone so into being the greatest ever. Even the one I knew who was, GordieHowe. Never acted like he was comfortable with it. Although they have a lot of the same. Off the ice, they're very patient and very focused and don't let things get them upset. On the ice, Austin can do that, Gordie. Gordie sort of made a living not doing that. So, back to Shanahan. He's good at unpopular decisions. How many of us like to go by that, huh? Absolutely no one. And then he hires Lou, which could have been the most unpopular decision. I still hear criticism about Lou's rules. And Lou is the wise old man of the project. These things are all part of when you're building a myth, you have a fearless leader who does bold things and creates a revolutionary spirit. You have a wise man, and he's able to execute the little business things that other people are. To say, don't hand me a bill and tell me how much of the cap your client gets. Let's talk. It isn't about storing away the most money. Go be a stockbroker. It's a lot more profitable on your first 3 years, okay? You don't want to be a hockey player if what you want to do is corner the market all the time. If you're going to play hockey, play for the Stanley Cup. Now, I've also heard that Shanahan is lazy, entitled, and not very smart. That probably comes from Scotty Bowman. And Scotty Bowman is the model for Babs. Babs, not Babylon, the flaky prophecy from Led Zeppelin, the cool thing, Mike Babcock. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi here. He shows you the Force. He shows you that every moment of your existence, on the ice, off the ice, is within your control. That you are the one who authors your ability to have the puck come right to you, okay? That's not hard to figure out. And the way Mike teaches hockey, Chris Chelios says no experienced player would want to play for him. Of course, he's got his own opinions on Channy, and I can't just sit here and talk about Channy all day. I got like 10 of those, so I'll sprinkle them. But Mike, he's a very simple case. He says you work hard, you do good things happen. If you're a professional, you show up ready to work every day that you're required to be there. You do the work that's required, and you don't complain about it. That you don't take jobs on yourself like trainer or medical personnel that aren't your job. You are a hockey player. Show up, work hard, go to the weight room, work hard, train, do the things you're supposed to do, study the film you're supposed to do. If you do those things, good things happen. The puck comes right to you. So all I can assume is Chris Chelios, who I had some grudging respect for, is lazy. Because he's the one who thinks that this is too much trouble for experienced hockey players. He tells a story of Ray Bourque showing up for practice an hour late and leaving 2 hours early. So that means that practices are longer than 4 hours in those days. I don't believe it. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, Ray Bourque, the captain, the great Ray Bourque. And I do respect Ray Bourque because I lived in Boston. I know what he means to those people. But Ray Bourque showing up late for practice, then saying, yeah, this isn't for me. I've got things to do. That isn't the professional spirit. That isn't the kind of thing that changes a person who isn't very structured into a great player. We are watching some tremendous things go on here. This is not just a great day in Toronto. This is a revolution. And that table has to be set by people who are firm to their intellectual beliefs. We've never been in this position. I don't think anybody in the league has. There's models for it. But this is the only one of its kind. So this is Dawn Marie Sargent. Who the hell cares? Dawn, okay? I'm Dawn. And this is True to Blueprint. And I sure wish you guys would ask me anything you want. I will answer questions about myself. If they're too personal, I simply won't answer them, okay? And then in terms of hockey, I'd love to cover things just based on what you guys ask. And the more that it affects the idea of the blueprint, because there's nothing in life that isn't covered by the blueprint. But I'll do that in another video. Okay, like, subscribe. Don't take one thing I said and dislike all my videos, like the guy who obviously is Connor McDavid's godfather. And, I don't hate Connor. So, I have my opinion. You don't need to have my opinion. It doesn't hurt my opinion for you to have a different one. It doesn't hurt your opinion for me to have a different one. So if you don't feel threatened, then why are you worried? Okay, very good. Like, subscribe, all that crap, and good luck with Detroit tonight. I hope I can get this up before that. I think we're going to actually kind of spank them silly. They'll go away all, oh, mommy. So, and there's nothing that makes me happier than to see my neighbors squirm. Okay, True to Blueprint. And let's see, I usually say something here. Oh, right. I'll be back. I promise.